Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you for this, once again, yet another wonderful session as a part of the MMA Women's Business Forum. Today we have a very, very interesting topic in the driver's seat, breaking biases. To take the session forward, to introduce the speaker and to set the tone, may I request Group Captain Vijay Kumar and Ms. Vani to come onto the dais and take the place on the dais, please. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome them with a round of applause. Yeah. Also welcome all the viewers watching us online this evening. And of course, Ms. Maithili, who's joined us online. So our viewers are all aware that this is a monthly event. We have been trying to do at least 2 events a month under this MMA Women's Business Forum. Thanks to Ms. Maithili Chandrasekhar and Ms. Babita Barua and Ms. Lata Kumar, who have been driving this effort month after month. So today, as I just said, we have Ms. Vani, who's going to talk to us on this very, very interesting topic. May I request Group Captain Vijay Kumar to welcome the audience formally and to set the tone for this evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Venkat. Once again, very warm welcome to each one of you. We have got some very important program lined up for you. Maybe I'll take a minute or more to just tell you so that you don't miss them. I also want to again remind you, we moved on to online election mode, and as a technology comes, we would like to use everybody to vote, and the tracking is not very encouraging. I mean, only 50% of the people are really open, and the MMA has got to help this. If you have any issue with your election, your login, you please send a mail or call Sundar. We'll connect you to NSDL. NSDL is one of the best organizations to conduct. They conduct elections for almost every organization, and they do it so smoothly. In ours is also anything, that's what the management of change. Anything change, it takes some time to get absorbed, and that's why we are leaving no stones unturned. We are connecting, a team of people are connecting with every member, make sure that every member vote, because our chief election commissioner is very strict. We wanted every member to vote. You know who is our chief election commissioner? Is IT director, IT Madras. Before, I also wanted you to nominate for the MMA Award for Managerial Excellence. That's again a very prestigious award. Deloitte is the consultant for the award. We got some outstanding jury lined up. Please do send your nominations. We got time till the end of this month. And quickly, I want to tell you what's happening next few days. 20th of May, we have again Read and Grow. The theme of the book is Leadership Wisdom, the 8 rituals of a visionary leader. We got Sangeeta Anand Manoharan, who is the managing director of Cooper, and also Navneet, who is the CEO of Hindu, will be talking to us, joining the panel discussion that day. 23rd, we have very interesting event not to be missed, and especially all the viewers watching online, please note down recent trends in cyber crimes. We have Rajendran, Chairman Digital Thing, he's also be one of the panelists. Through Amresh is there. Amresh Pujari is the Director General of Police, Cybercrime Tamil Nadu. And we have another interesting person, Shiva Balaji. He's a cyber security professional. He's going to be talking to us on what not to use on telephone and where really people take you for a ride when you use all the things what you must do and don't on you're using your hand phone, telephone. So other digital, including net. So you must come and what is happening on 23rd. On the 25th, we have again an interesting event. Sri Lanka, from pearl drop to teardrop. You know what's happening in Sri Lanka. Somebody say India has gained, somebody say India lost. But I know in the textile industry, India is in deep trouble. So we couldn't really grab all the opportunity of textile industry from Sri Lanka. We have, what's happening in the market. The rates have gone up so high in terms of yarn. We're not able to survive. But how we can help each other and what is the position change in terms of Sri Lanka? We have some outstanding experts coming talking, like Nirupama Subramanian, the senior journalist, editor of Indian Express from New Delhi. Srinivasa Babu is he runs the biggest factory on Tirupur industry, and which deals with. Then we have got Abbas. Abbas is the chief administrative officer of Export Freight, EFL, one of the largest supply chain company from Sri Lanka, operating all over the world. We got Satyamurthy, who's an expert on Sri Lanka. He's going to talk. Then on the 26th, again an interesting event. I think a few more people are there. I think I'll give them 1 more minute for them to join. The art of management. The speaker is none other than our D. Shivakumar, Group Executive President of Aditya Birla Group. He is going to discuss and his interaction with about 30 top-notch leaders, what he found to be what is art of management. And Shivakumar, when he talks, I'll walk miles to listen to him. He's one of the outstanding speakers I come across in our I can say even India. So you can tell him, Shiva Kumar is former head of Nokia and former head of Pepsi. Please do come on the 26th. And coming to today's event, before that, let me warmly welcome all the viewers watching this program live from all the chapters located all over 10 locations, Erode, Namakkal, Trichy, and also Chengalpet, Atur, Pondicherry, all these chapters. And this program has been brought to you exclusively only online. Other viewers are watching on webcast and Zoom and other channels. If you have any questions, please do write to us. The speaker today has kindly agreed to respond to all your questions. Actually, as usual, if you type them and send across, it will be. And today's topic is in the driver's seat, breaking the biases. I'm quite sure more about this will be spoken by our chairperson for this evening. Chairperson for this evening, that is, you all know Maithili Chandrasekhan very well. She's the one who is driving Women Business Forum. To give you the background, those who are watching it for the first time, Women Business Forum has been formed with the idea of Mr. Balraman, who is a past president, is our mentor guide. And he suggested you must do this, and he suggested a couple of very passionate women who should come and drive this for MMA. And one is Maithili, who is leading, and other along with her, we have got Lata, we have got also Babita. Now I'm going to request Mr. Vani also to join. Idea is to do some exclusive events. We have some exclusive Facebook connections for only for women. But at the end of the day, Maithili will share with you. We are doing a lot of effort, but still we are not reached the desired level what we want to have an interaction with women. But we are getting some outstanding speakers. We already lined up speakers for next couple of months on the Women Business Forum. Let me, before I ask our chairperson for this evening, Maithili, to say, check the contacts, also introduce the speaker for this evening. Let me briefly introduce Maithili. You all know her every time I keep introducing. She got over 35 years of consumer behavior and brand strategy. And she created a thinking framework model for brainstorming tools for a variety of verticals and published over 75 articles in leading India, US, and UK media, and also created brand chakras, won number of awards, and co-authored Voice Within. She's very passionate. We really enjoy working with her because she's very means business. She really want to do something for the women folks, and that's why we want to do all our support we give to her. Thank you, Maithili. It's always a pleasure to have you with us, and I now request Maithili to set the context, also introduce Vani. Over to you, Maithili.
Thank you, Group Captain, and welcome everybody to one more evening of the Women's Business Forum, and an evening of some more motivation and inspiration. So over the last nearly a year now, we have had a wide range of speakers and topics, and fundamentally, we have discussed how to increase women's participation in the workforce. And towards that, we have talked about women and have come and talked to us about how they broke social norms and standards in entering the workforce and staying the course, how they balanced home and work, how they broke the glass ceiling. They've had stories of entrepreneurs, of people in career, mid-career, and higher up the ladder as well. And we've heard a whole lot of topics. We have had people speaking on negotiation skills, we have had master classes in everything from entrepreneurship to how to build your social media profile. We have done personal branding and all of that. And one of the angles that we are going to look at today is why we have women entering some industries and why not so many women enter other industries. Yeah. So for example, we have seen a lot of women entering banking and heading large banking corporations. We have seen, you walk into any insurance office, an airline, a hospital, we do see a lot of women everywhere. But one of the things we have noticed is there aren't that many women in the automotive industry. And that is one of the reasons we have Vani speaking to us today. I've had the privilege of seeing Vani from a very young colleague. You know, there's this famous quote that behind every successful woman are a tribe of other women who have each other's back. Vani and I belong to a terrific group of women in an office where we all had each other's back. You can read Vani's CV for yourself, but I want to tell you what I know about Vani. One of my earliest memories of Vani is a very young Vani driving a very big, bad, bold SUV, you know, and that's a picture that has always stayed with me as a very typical Vani picture. Very confident, stylish, owning the space that she's sitting in or driving at, and taking on the road and whatever comes her way. And Vani has been now in the automotive industry, both in the advertising and marketing side and now in the client side. And she's done, I mean, you name it, and any aspect of marketing and communication around automotive, Vani has probably seen it. Besides that, I've seen Vani having two small children and balancing work and home, and also being part of the rowing team, and also also making time for friends. And even today, when her children are grown up and in college, if there is talk of a reunion, she'll be the one who is organizing the whole thing. So as someone who has entered the workforce young, stayed the course, breaking different kinds of ceilings, managed and balanced home and work, let's hear from Vani about women in her learnings, I think, of being a woman in the automotive industry. And as always, the audience will find that what we share is relevant to everybody, man and woman. The speaker happens to be a woman. And you will find her learnings relevant not just to automotive, but to life itself. So over to you, Vani. That's why we have this title today, because if Vani is around, she likes to take the driver's seat. So let's hear it for Vani and from Vani.
Thank you so much, Maithili. And thank you so much, Group Captain. It's a pleasure to be here. I've always heard of and spoken of MMA. And it is really my pleasure and to be here amongst all of you. And when Group Captain said you can do it in person, I jumped up, because I'm a person who likes to touch and feel and see and talk and interact with people. Probably one of the reasons why, I mean, Maithili speaks of my confidence. It has really come from the perspective of meeting many people, constantly in conversation, having a point of view, driving conversations with them and things like that. So once again, thank you, Maithili, and thank you, Group Captain, for inviting me here. I'm really beholden to you for having invited me. On the topic of bias, I sometimes wonder, in the year 2022, and we continue to talk of bias, and the 20th century and the 21st century, and how many more years we will continue to talk of bias. But bias, according to me, is actually the 8th sin. You have 7 sins. Bias is the 8th sin. But like all other sins, you choose. First, you need to know, are you a part of those who have bias? First, you need to identify that. If you don't think you're in the wrong, then there is a problem. So that is if you're sinning. Same goes for bias. First, you need to know, do you exhibit bias? Then, how do you manage that bias? Because you have to manage everything. Now, you can be a very talkative person like me, or you could be a very quiet person who doesn't speak too much, but you exhibit bias, which could be either ways. You could do it with just purely by the way your body language is, by the way you speak to people, the way you turn away from them. So bias can be demonstrated in multiple ways. But the fun part about all of this is it's challenging. We love to talk about our challenges, and life, unlike death, is about how you manage the challenge of life. And the challenge of life is something that I'm going to talk on, on my journey through this entire conversation and how it happened. I've worked now in the automotive industry for, I think, 25 odd years. In that, around a year and a half, I used to work on ponds. That's how I started my career, and I know Maithili. But and that was right at the beginning, so I didn't know much. But somewhere in the middle, for a year, I worked on health food drinks on GlaxoSmithKline. Let me assure you, I used to call Horlicks Horriblix in my mind because I couldn't even drink it. Unlike a lot of the southern community where, you know, Horlicks is a really well-sold brand. The number of bottles are 1 crore per month. I couldn't handle it. That 1 year of managing it told me that, you know, I was better handling petrol, diesel, guzzling vehicles. And, you know, my heart was in the auto industry, and that's how I stayed in. It was, I learned something new every day. I learned how to tackle something new every day. The auto industry is fraught with bias. And while I will not restrict the conversation on bias to just man or woman, it also happens by virtue of, you know, religion, by virtue of culture, by virtue of what country you're from, which city have you grown up in. You know, it's as simple. I mean, it's sometimes as complex or as simple as you want to make it. When you look at inanimate objects, you know, you look at a circle, a triangle, and a heart, you already have a preconceived notion or a bias. Now, that could be a black hole, that could be a circle. Now, there are triangles, there are multiple types of triangles. We've all done class 8 maths, right? Isosceles, and others and others. I used to score 8 out of 100 in maths, so I'm not going to get into too many details on that. I'm mostly a person who deals with the English language, and I think my forte lies there. I'll stick to it. And the moment we see a heart, we either think it's too tacky. Nowadays, it's too, don't wear your heart on the sleeve. You know, it's too cringy. You know, I see young people say that all the time, you know, you can't draw hearts. My generation, we used to draw hearts everywhere. Yeah, and it didn't matter. In fact, I would think my generation also started with those heart-shaped balloons, but it kind of got cringy to buy them on Valentine's for your boyfriend or your husband or your wife or whatever. So hearts have their own bias again. So just basic shapes, inanimate objects have bias. Obviously, it is but obvious that you will have bias when you're human beings. I mean, when you have a voice, you will have an opinion, hopefully, and your opinion will create bias. Look at the fruits. A pineapple is hard and prickly on the outside, but it's intensely sweet and it comes with its own characteristics. Same goes for an apple. We believe the pits are dangerous, right? The pits, if they are ground together, can kill somebody. I learned that from a movie, by the way, and I'm sure your notions are then built on the basis of that bias. Grapes are bad for people with diabetes. I believe they are poison. So, I mean, there used to be a time when I used to look at a bowl of grapes and I'd say, wow, today I see a bowl of grapes and I'm like, oh, hell, you know? So, I mean, that's how I have changed. So we all change with our life experiences. You are nothing but the experiences in your life and what they make of you. So when you look at shapes like that and you look at fruits like that, obviously when it comes to people, you know, we judge, we mentally create, you know, a balance sheet of sorts of liabilities and assets, could be emotional, rational, etc. And then we say, oh, so if he's Rahul Gandhi, he does this, or he doesn't do anything, and so he's like this. Then there is Ricky Ponting. For those of you who know Ricky Ponting, at least the young ones, I don't know, so I'm not so sure whether he's your generation, but he was known for his cricket, but he was also known for being a very brash captain. And of course, Australian. And so, you know, we have this love-hate relationship with Australia and our cricket. How can we not talk about that? And when it comes to Bollywood, another topic that is very dear to every Indian, whichever side of the cinema you're on, whether it's in South India or it's in North India, Kangana Ranaut is making a fair amount of noise, whether it is politically, film-wise, any which ways, opinionated. You know, she's a woman and she's opinionated and she's talking about it. Good, bad, or ugly comes much later. But we don't know them, right? We've never met them, but we have opinions about them. If we did enter a room, we don't know what we would say. I still remember one of my meetings was with Arnab Goswami. It was the first time I met him. I had already, you know, I had this aura of sound around him, but he was a very quiet chap and he turned out to be quite a tall chap. And I'm not very short. So when I stood in front of him and I said, hello, he stuck out his hand and I shook it. I come from an old school where The handshake tells you what kind of a human being you're meeting, or you judge people on the basis of their handshake. He had a very soft, I'm sorry to say this, but he had a very soft, fleshy hand. And it immediately, it gave me a bit of a flutter that he's not a good man to meet. I mean, I have been told that handshakes must be firm, not enough to crush your hand, especially when you're a woman. You should never stick out your hand to a woman. You should allow the woman to offer her hand, to shake it. So, I mean, I belong to an old school. Yes, I'm very modern. I have worked in the auto industry, and I work mostly amongst men. Usually in the room that I'm sitting in, there are no women. There are none whatsoever. Not that it makes me happy. In fact, it bothers me intensely all the time. And but when you meet people and they don't follow etiquette of certain kinds, you judge them. You have bias. And these are all the conversations that go around your head, and they choose to drive your conversations or how you talk to people. You say hello, and then what follows after that, right? I just want to take an example from the car industry. When we try to bring a product into the market, I just want you to focus on the first line. I wanted to animate it. Apologies, I have not animated it, but you just focus on the first line, which talks about how we actually go about our research. I know Maithili has done a fair bit of them, but we first show everybody a car exterior. We debadge the cars, which means you will never be able to see any logos. You will not be able to make out which car manufacturer it's from. So you'll only see the exterior of the car. You'll be able to see the muscular lines. You'll be able to see the stance of the vehicle. You'll be able to see the grille, the headlamps. You'll be able to see everything except for what badge it owns. Then we show them the car interiors, which means the luxuriousness or the lack of luxury. The plastics, the grays, the felts, the way if there is any amount of technology or not there in it. Then we show people, so it's like one by one. It's like a clinic. So you walk into, first see the car physically from the outside, then from the inside, and then you go through a whole list of its tech specs or technical specifications. So for example, how many speakers are there in the car, kind of a thing, and various other things. So all kinds of features. You think about it, fog lamps, etc., etc. After you've seen all the physicals around it, then you announce, okay, this is the nameplate. Just to take an example, so if you were to let me use the Nissan Magnite as an example. So if you were to talk about the Magnite is the nameplate. Now, you would hear the name, people would ask you, what do you think about it after you've seen the exterior, the interior, the features, right? And then they would reveal to you that it belongs to brand Nissan. Now, if somebody told you that it's the Maruti Magnite, yeah, sacrilege according to me, but if you were to say it's a Maruti versus it was a Magnite, we would have a different opinion about it. We would think differently about it. And these could be a lack of bias or a bias, depending on what is your opinion about the brand in the marketplace. And once you do that, the price will drive a completely different conversation. Oh, it isn't worth it. Oh, it is worth it, etc. And then when you actually drive the car, it brings in a bit of a punch or the lack of a punch, however you want to play it. The dichotomies are there for everyone to see. The positioning or how you brand the vehicle, which is for the Nissan Magnite, it's the big, bold and beautiful car, or SUV, BSUV. That positioning, you preconceive people's notions. Oh, I'm going to see a big, bold, beautiful car in the showroom. So a lot of people are already there. Even when they see the picture, you tend to align your minds to it, right? That's how positioning plays its part. Then you already know something about Nissan's service. You know something already about Nissan's network. But if it were Maruti, you know something completely different about its service and its network. And then finally, when you look at all of these that form the ecosystem for a business or a brand, you have a certain opinion that drives your conversation about it. How you buy something, is defined by all of what you know about it. So what makes it simple is the more research you do, the more conversation you have about something, the more you build on what you know about something to take a decision on it, which is not a biased decision. If you look at the second line, which is about me, I've put in my name there. So what you know about me as I walked into a room, I am a sari clad woman. I'm wearing a ponytail, right? I have my earrings. I'm very traditional. I wear a nose pin, right? But that's all you see. But the moment I tell you what school I'm from, that I am schooled in Haryana mostly, Hindi speaking schools for almost, I did 13 schools in 10 years, of which at least 8 schools were Hindi medium. Only 3 were English medium. Thankfully, 8th, 9th, and 10th were English medium, which was not an easy task, but it was there. So you will have an opinion, and that will drive you. If I say that I was in a convent, those last 3 years we were in a convent school, then they again gear me differently. The moment I tell you I went to a particular college, I went to Mehar Chand Mahajan Dayanand Anglo-Vedic College. It has a certain perspective to it. It's a very studious college. It looked like a school. There were 12 feet walls with even 6 feet of barbed wire on top. That was the kind of college I went to. So that again has a perspective to it. If I tell you my dad and mom were working people, it has a perspective. If I tell you my dad was an IPS officer from the Haryana cadre, it will have a different perspective. If I tell you my mother taught in college, she was a professor of history, Gandhian studies, it has a different perspective. All of these add. I don't think they take away, but there will be people who will think it takes away. Why Gandhi? Why not somebody else? Why not the Indian revolutionaries? People can have their own perspective, but these add or derive bias. Right? Me, I am the middle child in the family. I always say I carry the attitude of the size of Madhya Pradesh on my shoulders, or Uttar Pradesh, meaning it's so large because I'm the middle child. I'm used to fighting for everything because my elder sister was always older and she was somebody I could never say anything to. And my younger sister was always younger, so I could also not say anything to her. So I got stuck in the middle. I always got what my elder sister got. So since she was just 1 year up from me, I was always getting her hand-me-downs, but the next one was 5 years away. So she never got my hand-me-downs. So guess who got stuck in the middle? It was me. So I always keep, even, so being the middle child comes with its own sense of bias. I feel pre-biased. So even before you tell me something, but that was at a certain age, even before somebody asked me and I'll say, why, why, how, why not, and why not me? So, because I'm used to fighting for it. I'd be surprised if you tell me I got it easily. I still remember the first time my boss told me, listen, you've got the job. One of my bosses. And I'm like, you're sure? The whole job? Not half of it? I'll never forget my response to her because I was so used to fighting for everything, every inch of what I owned, that it just became a perspective in life. It was a preconceived set of notions which make you a fighter. Sometimes I think it's a good thing. And there are some times when I think that I overdo it or the drama is too much. If you talk to my daughters, they'll say, there's too much of drama around you. You need to really pipe it down. Well, my daughters are 23 and 20. I know Maitri said young daughters, but they are fairly older and they are taller and they're graduates. So it's been a tough and long fight, but arduous one, but they're on their way. My career began with JWT. And that was an advertising agency. I started as an assistant account rep and I got out of there as a vice president. Maithili, I'm extremely fortunate to have learned from. In fact, my confidence, my sense of my entire education, actually, the entire, what one would call the base is someone like Maithili. She basically drove me to work harder, strive, prove myself. She threw projects at me that I thought I could never do, books at me that I thought I'd never read. I'm more of a fiction person, but she made me read a lot of non-fiction and ensured that I did that. That helped me get rid of the bias that I think today I'm able to fight well enough. So also for, when I worked on Ford or I worked on TVS, I was Vani Aiyer who joined TVS Sundaram Iyengar and Sons. So the first question I was asked was, why have you joined TVS? Everybody I met used to ask me the same question. What is an Aiyer doing in Iyengar and Sons? I said, I am not the only one. It's just that I choose to write my name like that. But people were biased to the fact that I wrote my name, but it comes from being from the from the north of India, I think, that you don't really care what's after your name. Actually, I used to be Vani Harishankar, which is my father's name, but he said it's smaller if you fit it into a passport, a form. To write Aiyer every time, to write Harishankar every time is too much of a bother. Just make it Aiyer. Anyway, you will only marry an Aiyer, which he was very sure of. So we all, the 3 sisters got married according to the parents, etc., etc. So the Aiyer thing stayed through and through. But the comedy was that in Sundaram Iyengar and Sons, I stayed for 3 years, happily so. And they accepted me the way I am, which is with all the aggression, with all the conversation, loud speaking, presenting my voice, presenting myself. It was not that there was no bias. Of course, there was bias, because in Sundaram Iyengar and Sons, most women were in the secretarial cadre or in finance or chartered accountants, etc. You will not find women in business. I sat in the management committee conversations, which itself was a bit much for everybody. But I had the support of my bosses. I had the support of people who knew I could present my case well, and I could articulate what the business needed. I think if you put business first, there is no bias. The moment you stand up for the business, remember, you're here to do business. We are here for time and money. The moment everybody is on the same page on time and money, and the fact that you need to be business first, the walls of bias just come crumbling down. There is nothing better than being well prepared to manage your business on a daily basis. Me and Nissan have a very special story. I thought I had put the final nail in my coffin after I got out of TVS on my career. But Nissan came to me at a time when I thought I was going to hang up my boots. And for 1.5 years, I worked with them in marketing. And I realized the biggest bias I had to face was about numbers, and some of the bias I created, some of the bias others around me did. I said, that I didn't score well in school. It stayed with me. The fact that I got 7 on 100 in class 8, of course, after that, I did score well enough to get through everywhere, but that's not the point. Point is the 7 out of 100 stuck in my head. And that, even in every meeting when I go, I make sure I write the numbers like in 40 size bold point red, meaning if we have 3.2%, it will be written like really big, so that A, I can read it without my glasses, and B, I don't forget that number for the life of me. Whether it is our revenue, whether it's our profit, whether it's how many cars we sell, variants we have, etc., etc. Every number is written big and bold in front of me on a sheet of paper. But that's my prep to ensure that people who sit opposite me do not hold that bias against me. But I do it myself. I will tell people myself that, listen, my math is very poor, but my English rocks. I'm a rock star when it comes to English. So my confidence is on my English, not on my math, but I say it up front and probably sometimes sink my own boat. So that you shouldn't do. You should be well prepared and make sure that then the bias can actually crumble away. In today's world, it is not just what you have lived through in terms of a career or in terms of your life. It's also social media, because you have multiple personas, and I will come to that in a little while from now. I found this very interesting way to exhibit to you how I lived through my entire life for 49 years. And I'm sorry, yeah. At 7, I believe I was my own enemy, because I was a middle child. I told you about that. My elder and my younger sister were constantly, they used to study really well. They used to come first in class. I had dyslexia of sorts. In those days, nobody knew what dyslexic meant, leave alone trying to find out I had dyslexia. I had ADHD apparently. So I discovered all that later when I saw one film called Tare Zameen Par. Because in class 8, I will never forget, there was so we had an 8A plus B the whole square. I actually wrote A to Z and came back. And in that paper is where I scored 7 on 100. So when I saw that movie, I kept nudging my mother. I said, that's me. I said, can you see that? That's me. That's what I felt. All the numbers used to dance. They used to go all over the paper. And I used to sing, look out of the window. I did all kinds of things. That's how my maths was like not happening, So I was my bestest enemy. Let me say that at 7. And at 14, I had decided to rebel. So I was and this would be in the early 80s, when still you had to get back home before it was dark. And I never did. I used to stay out of home. I used to play tennis for 4 hours, swim for 3, go for tuitions for 3, which meant I never got back home before 10. Never, ever. But I was doing judicious work, as in I was in the right places, doing the right thing. So my parents always knew where I was, but I was very rebellious. I actually wanted to be a tennis player. And my mother said, what will everybody say? That Okay, in Hindi, it goes like this. IG Saab ki beti tennis khelti hai, which means the Inspector General's daughter is going to play tennis. So like, no, that can't be it. You need to do your MBA, you need to do a CA, you need to do you need to figure out what you need to do, because it can't be just this. The bias didn't come from me, myself alone. It also came from people around me. And it's unfortunate, but it also came from our parents. A lot of it is PTSD. At least to my generation, we've all suffered the trauma of our parents not knowing enough of how to deal with the problem. But they have also been our biggest backers. Once they figured out that you knew your shit, they kind of got it all together for you. By 21, I thought I was a maverick because I made a decision to get into advertising. And in those days, advertising was not a good place for girls to go to, because that's where, the not so good people hung around. Work happened after dark. You came home after dark, etc. So advertising was where I thought I did my maverick stint. And from there, within a quick 2 to 5 years, I had my 2 daughters. And I was in advertising on the Ford business, where at 7 a.m. you had to be at the plant if you wanted to meet your client, because he wanted to come back to office at 6 p.m. and be in my office. So it was like you had to do a dual job. You had to work at the plant also, even though I was in advertising and in JWT. But in the evening, he would come to our office and work, the client. So you ended up working from any time between 6 a.m. in the morning till 11 or 12 or 1 or 2, depending on how things went, right? So people you worked with were equally strong about creating situations on bias. And it was not because you are a man or you are a woman or anything. In fact, I have never thought of myself as a female anything. I'm agnostic to whoever I talk to. I meet interesting people with phenomenal stories to tell every day. I think, and age agnostic. So for example, when you talk to Maithili, you will never know that, you will never believe her age, because she is so full of joy that I mean, she is so full of life. She has so much excitement about new topics, and she'll push you. She'll be like, Vani, you can do more. And I'll be like, listen, I'm already doing more. I can't do any more than this. But, and then you realize that the bias is in your head. If she thinks you can do it, obviously she sees a glimmer of something in you, and that's where it arises. And somewhere you find that you can respond to these biases better when you spend time with people who can actually help you grow and overcome obstacles. Beyond that, at 35, I think I kind of cracked it. My boss, there was a gentleman called Mr. M.A. I'll never forget. He used to be known as the brains, because he was from BITS Pilani and he did his engineering, and not unlike me, he was a Nutukanuru case, and in math, and he also was, he'd also did his MBA from, I think, IIM Bangalore. Yeah. So he was like completely ace lister, star, best performer. Even now he's with Mindshare and he's a big man. But so why I call 35 and being a maven is I remember Maps coming and telling me, Vani, you've cut your teeth on strategy and nobody can take it from you in the automotive world. I just looked at him and I'm like, okay, that was the day my life changed. I started looking at myself like that, because my bias to myself in most cases was that I thought very little of myself. I didn't think I had kind of gotten there. Advertising took its toll, but it taught me a lot of things. It taught me how to fight my way up. And I moved from advertising and as a career to show space, where I worked in events and event management. And I worked with different brands, everybody from General Motors to Toyota. And you think of the brand Saint-Gobain actually, and many such brands, and Vodafone. I've done cyclothons and marathons. What I learned amongst all of this is that people comes in all shapes and sizes. People come in all shapes and sizes. And if you listen to what they have to say to you, more often than not, you will end up stumbling over your own feet. Listen to everybody, but do what you want to do. Do what you think is right. And if you have the right value system, then your conversations go the right way. If you look at yourself on social media shows you differently in every scape. Meaning on LinkedIn, you look your professional self. If you go over, so my entire career scape will be there on LinkedIn. If you look at Facebook, my entire, my social circle and my social conversations will be there. Look at Twitter, it's again very different because it's opinions, right? And that's where I drive my opinions, whether it's about cricket, it's about politics, about media, about cars, about auto. Look at Insta, again, lots of photography, lots of stories, lots of fun facts. It talks about how I think and how I feel. Very open. If you go to Pinterest, which I am a big fan of and I recommend everybody must be, it allows me to express myself and catch up on a lot of content, which is phenomenal. But each one of these social handles that I have show me differently. If you saw only one of them, you would talk to me differently. You would have a preconceived thought process about me or the way you would think. And that's how people would perceive you as well. So the bias that you have when you look at all of these forums or social forums is just infinite. If you don't have bias, you will be a saint. So every one of us has bias to begin with. And none of us is a saint, at least not that I can know of in this room. The time that we have to do business is finite. You have limited time and limited money. So you try to see how do you make this bias work for you. I have some 4 or 5 rules and they are very simple. Number 1, behind any successful man or woman, it could be a man or a woman. It could be anybody. I believe my husband, if he weren't what he was, I wouldn't be here today talking in front of you. He never asked me, why do you come home late? Where do you go? What are you doing at work? Nothing. You know, it was always, we decided to keep our work life separate. And even today, you know, I mean, nobody comes to pick me up from the airport. In fact, I look at things very strangely when people tell me, oh, my husband's coming to pick me up or my wife is coming to pick me up. I'm like, I've never got picked up from the airport. Never, ever. And I've flown enough number of times between Delhi and Chennai. Now I think I should demand it, actually. But there could be anybody, your mom, your dad, your siblings. There could be so many people who are right behind you. It's just, it could be a young sibling. It could be age agnostic, right? It could be religion agnostic. It could be state agnostic. Actually, a great word to take a lot of faith from is agnostic. Try and be as agnostic as you can. If you don't have any preconceived notions about people or where they come from, I constantly see the divide between Delhi and Chennai, and I'm always torn in between because I'm raised there in the north and I'm actually very Tamilian at heart. You know, so it's very difficult. It's terribly difficult. So when I see the Delhiite saying, oh, Madrasi hai, usko kya pata hai, they'll say that. And then when I come to the finance department here at the plant, they'll say, those Delhi walas, they never take decisions on time. They never do their jobs on time. These Delhi walas don't know anything. And I'm constantly looking at them like, those main kya karu? What do you want me to do? You know, it's like, no. Ma'am, you have come here now. No, we'll solve the problem. I said, you've been waiting for 11 years to solve the problem. And I have come here because I know Delhi and I know Chennai. So it's actually comical in many ways, but these biases can really, you know, they can drive you batty, actually. The second, and the most crucial, you must always be prepared. The best way to remove bias from any conversation is to be very, very well prepared. Because if you go prepared into a discussion, one, you will always go for a win-win solution. You want both sides of a negotiation to end up in a win-win, not in a win-lose, not in a lose-win, not in a lose-lose. Okay. So if you're prepared with information, pros and cons, data, the walls of bias just come crumbling down. Nothing is more phenomenal than having an intelligent person sitting opposite you. So if you can be that intelligent person for the other person, it works. The third one, and something I believe in tremendously, which is be generous. Let me tell you, at 49, I believe karma exists because I've seen it occur. Meaning I've seen it happen in my lifetime. Not once, not twice, 1 billion times. And I'm sure Maithili can vouch for it too. I'm sure she's seen it a lot more times. But please be generous. What goes around comes around. How you treat others is how you will get treated at some point later. Then don't ask the world, why is it all happening to me? It is happening to you because you deemed the universe to work in a certain way. Yeah. Have a voice, have a point of view. All of us have a tongue. You know, God has given us a great functional, you know, we are great machines. We are phenomenal machines, actually. We can stand pain, power, stress, issues, I mean, sicknesses, everything. But if you don't use that voice that you've been gifted with, it's a travesty. It's a travesty to your body to not use that voice. in Hindi, there is a very beautiful quote. It says, "Khud ko kar buland itna," which means make yourself so strong ki khuda khud bande se aakar puche, which is that God himself will come and ask you, "Bata teri raza kya hai? What do you want?" I mean, make yourself so strong that you want the higher powers that be. It doesn't have to be only about God. They come and ask you, "What do you want?" And sometimes I feel that that's what's happening to me right now. And I can tell you that I feel like, I look behind me to see, are they talking to somebody else for a change? Because, when good things happen, you can't believe them sometimes, right? Because if you go through a lot of trials and tribulations, let me tell you, whether it was when I was 7, 14, I've had my share of challenges. So when good things happen to you, you tend to look back to think, you think they're talking to the person behind you. No, they're talking to you. It's like, okay, Vani, come on, focus. They're talking to you. They think you know this all. So, okay, all is well, which means the strength is within you. I used to think it's crap. What is this within me? I don't know what is within me. I have no idea what's within me. But I realized that over a period of time, you end up looking at problems and solutions in creative ways. And that builds you up as individuals. And that is what is within you. Answers are in no book. There is no guidebook to live life or take away from bias. You live through it. You try to put it into an Excel sheet. I think Excel sheets are fabulous stuff. Even though I was a math, I was completely against math, but Excel sheets are fabulous. Make lists and make Excel sheets and you will know where you are. You know what to stay with, you know what to let go of. And the last one, be creative. It's the simplest thing. The human is so different from anything else that you can be dolphin-like. They say dolphins stave away or they push away sharks with their bulbous nose when they're attacked. One would think you can't escape a shark attack, but but dolphins do. They do save themselves from shark attacks by using their very hard bulbous, I'm terrible with this, I think, no? So move away a little bit. They use their hard bulbous nose and they knock it against the side of a shark to drive them away from attacking them. So now when you go into a conversation and you want to have, you want to go in for a win-win solution, you need to be dolphin-like, you need to be creative, because what that will do is again drive bias away. Now, like I said, we are all born with bias. We all have bias. We're not born with bias. We acquire bias along the way. I'm sorry, my bad. The only way to knock bias out is to have your own little, cheat sheets on them. These are my 5 cheat sheets that I shared with you today. But you will find your own experiences and you will find your own means and ways to get bias out. I think that a great word to take back with you today is agnostic, and try to be agnostic. You don't have to align yourself to any one thing or body or person or ways to do things. Yeah. I think with that, I will end my presentation. I did put a slide together, a quick slide on what looks like what I do. Because I thought maybe, my current role in Nissan, okay, this looks very busy, but just a quick look is I do external communications, which means I talk to a lot of media people. So one of the first things that I did when I joined the media business in Nissan was to take Facebook requests and Insta requests from some 350 odd men. So when I did it, I took a 10-second gap before I accepted all the requests. I realized that I was taking friend requests from completely unknown people. I didn't know them from Adam. All 350 of them, they belong to some media house or the other, or some media agency or the other, but I did. And I'm now been with them for like, I think 2 years. And it's been a great yeah. No, that's okay, not an issue. Then I also do internal communications. I sit in 2 management committees, both at the plant, which has 8,000 people, and at the corporate office, which has around 100 people. Let me tell you, both the management committees only has men in it. There are no women. It's a pity, because it is difficult for women as they grow up the ladder to want to stay. Every day you want to give up. Today, every minute I wanted to give up. Today, before I came to you guys, I've had a really terrible day. Every hour I wanted to say, not me, not today, and I'm not going to take it. I almost told and I told them where to get off. Usually I'm not like that. I'm a lot calmer, cooler, comfortable with everybody. And I'll say, it's all right, we'll take it forward, blah, blah, blah. Today I told them, no, it's not happening. You're not saying this to me and getting away with it. I caught them then and there and I shook them like a little rat and threw them out of my meeting rooms. It was all on Zoom and on Teams and all of that. But today was not the day. Because I knew I was coming here. I wanted a calm mind. I wanted to talk to all of you about my experiences and what bias was all about, right? But it was what it was. And that's how days are, you know. Internal comms for a plant is very different from a corporate. And talking to technicians who may not be comfortable with the English language, you have to define communications differently for all of them. You have to define communication differently for blue collar workers and for white collar workers. It's a very different scape out there. But that's what my job is all about. A large part of my conversations are also about governance, which means policy making in the auto sector. So if you have read about, I don't know how many of you know what's going on in the auto sector right now, but whether it is about CAFE norms, which is CO2 emissions in, and what OEMs are doing to deal with it, about the 6 airbags in the car, about 3-point safety belts. I work on all of that. I work on that with SIAM, which is the Society of Indian Auto Manufacturers. Again, the usual bias is, okay, she may not know the subject. I usually take the research guy with me. So, you know, and he briefs me and he teaches me. So there are people who teach you. So there are so many people who will come together with you to rise for the occasion. It's amazing. And that takes away the bias. So then there is no bias in the room. So then you're the person who is representing the organization in a place like SIAM. It's awesome. I mean, you know, the power that you have, when I say power, I mean the headiness or the exhilaration that you feel that there is somebody who's empowering you with data so that you can speak well in front of people. That's all that it takes to dissolve the bias. And I work on compliance. Today, compliance is very important in every organization. And the fact that, you know, when you have leaders behind you, you can say you can actually really work into a very strong organization. I also work on corporate social responsibility for the business. And that is largely to do with, we do a lot of work around the villages of the plant. We do a lot of work with the railway authorities. We do a lot of work with MORTH, which is the Ministry of Road Transport. There's a fair amount of conversations that go around trying to support, you know, the state departments on COVID and COVID work. We have 100% vaccinated workforce. All of those, you know, are conversations that really help me be who I am. And I guess that's what brings a lot of confidence into the way maybe I can speak or be here on behalf of the organization and talk to you about bias. I hope I could speak to you and present to you a conversation that is useful in some way or the other. But like I said, your experiences are your own and nobody can be a better teacher than yourselves. But it always helps to have a cheat sheet. Yeah. So thank you very much. Yeah. Yes.
Ms. Maithili, I think you've heard that our conversation now. You please go ahead and take it.
Thank you, Vani, for that. I will leave the questions to the audience, but I want to share the two big things that I took out. Yeah, and it's something we know, but it hit me all over again, that your biggest biases are against yourself. You know, it's the preconceived notions that we have about ourselves is the first thing we need to tackle. And it really made me think. And the other thing was what you said about how if somebody looks at you with bias in the work environment, all you need to do is put the business first and be prepared. That was a very, very, very big takeout for me. And I've experienced that. I mean, as long as people know that you know what you're talking about and that what you bring to the table adds value to their business, they don't care whether you are man or woman. Yeah. So thank you for that. And yeah, love the fighting spirit with which you presented and really empathize with the bias against women in advertising, which was even more when I started than when you did. So thank you. Great, Vani. Over to Lata and then to the audience.
Thank you. That was a very interesting talk, Vani. Thank you for sharing your experiences in the driver's seat for so many years. and discussing all the difficulties you faced in such a forthright manner. That was it was almost stunning the way you expressed yourself. I do have one question. While you're in this driver's seat, what has been your biggest speed breaker?
You know, there have been so many. It's funny that you asked me which has been the biggest one. I think the biggest one has been my lack of knowledge on math. It is my own personal. It's my own personal bias on math. I always look at it, you know, even when somebody puts a document in front of me, I'll always quickly scan the English and I'll be like, do I need to know this math? That's my first question. And then I will be like, if I don't need to know it, I'll just say, okay, take it away. There's no need. I'm not going to fill up my head with things that I know I can't go move with. You know, I mean, between Google and a lot of things, math has to only own so much of my space, according to me. So I think my biggest speed breaker has been that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lata.
Well, so we have a few people, about 60, 70 people watching this from this hall, and there are a lot of people who are watching us online, a lot of viewers. So is there any question that any of the audience would like to ask here? The first preference to the audience within the hall. Yes, sir.
First thing is the term bias, you know, I say it is more or less related to prejudice. See, have an open, don't consider life as prejudices. No, don't open mind. Just for on lighter side, I'm just telling, don't take it. Vani Aiyer, Vani itself, you know, female. In the corporate sector, you'll be biased. And apart from that, you are adding a suffix Aiyer. So that will further. So you are awakening bias. See, instead of that, you awaken love in others. I'm not telling anything, just on lighter side. So awaken love in others. To awaken love in others, have an open mind. To develop open mind, explore some techniques. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's a very pertinent thing you have said, that you must try to awaken the love. But you know something, I believe every individual is a sum total of their experiences. I think from the day I was born, by the way, I was born in 7 months and my mother tells me she almost died giving birth to me. She went in for a checkup and I was born. So she wasn't intending to give birth to me that day. And they had to put me in an incubator, and those days in 73 or whatever, the incubators were what they were. They were little boxes. They were not really incubators. That I survived it itself. I thought I was a fighter and they expected me to be a boy. My grandmother wanted me to be a boy, but I turned out to be a girl. So for everything that I think of, and if everything I had to be the one to fight, I continue to do that, you know, and I believe it is that spirit of fight in me that continues to make me question everything around me. But I have some very loving people around me with whom I am very loving and generous, which is where I think I awaken a sense of belonging. And irrespective of my name, because everybody knows me as Vani. They don't know me as Vani Aiyer. It only goes on, say, dioceses and presentations, and not even presentations I send out. I write Vani Aiyer. I write only Vani. I sign. Of course, I sign as Aiyer, by the way. I sign. That's something my dad put in there, and I just kind of, like I said, I'm agnostic. I don't really care what it says to everybody. To me, it's a name is a name is a name. A rose by any other name is still a rose. So it's like that, you know, it's not really what it stands for. But that's my 2 bits on it.
Yes, sir, please.
Hello, ma'am. Nice to hear from you. And you've been a role model, a lot of people to follow. And this is Armstrong from Madras Christian College. On the lighter side, I should say basically from South India. And I have one of my students from North, and we go together well. And that's the essence of the institution as well. The point I'm trying to make is, we have value system, and there are two things, individual values, and we confront with, maybe the environment, the organization. Do we face a situation where maybe we have to compromise on that? And how did you overcome that? Now, maybe you have individual values in terms of not like your experience itself and the situation, the organization. How do you compromise on that, and how do you overcome that?
So when you call it a value system, that can't change. You can't abandon a value system. That is my personal opinion, that you can't abandon a value system. A value system means what you have grown up with, what you live, what you breathe, and that defines you. If it defines you, you don't give it up. I think in my entire career, every time I had to vacate a position of value, I would rather give up on the fight. I would abdicate. I'd say, please feel free. You do what you want to do. I will move on. I prefer to do that than vacate my position of value, because I believe the sense of being is very important. You can't move away from that. There are a lot of people who will abdicate the truth. They will say they are happy, but something. I believe very firmly in certain things, and in business, the Mahabharata really helps. There is so much in it. In fact, Maithili is someone who would probably know a lot more about it, and she's far more erudite and educated about these things. There is a story about Ashwathama, the elephant, is dead. It is about Dronacharya's son, when basically the Kauravas were winning the war and the Pandavas needed a up on them. And everybody said that the only way Drona is going to die is if he gives himself up. He won't, because he's been given, he's been given the boon of life. He is not going to, you can't kill him in battle. And the only way to get him to give up his own life is to tell him that his son is dead. Now, who will say this? Because Ashwathama, he was given a boon of life as well, if I'm not wrong. And, Chiranjeevi, boon of life. So when there is an elephant called Ashwathama in the war, who is shot dead with an arrow, and the Pandavas convince Yudhishthir, who is supposed to be the god of dharma and truth, to say Ashwathama. So if you even read the Amar Chitrakatha, where that story comes, it'll say Ashwathama, and the elephant is in quotes or in smaller letters, which means he says it inside his mouth, is dead. So Dronacharya only hears Ashwathama is dead. He doesn't hear the elephant. So according to Dharma or to Yudhishthir, he didn't lie. But according to, so white lies are a part and parcel of our custom, or of what is ingrained in us sometimes. So there are people who have that school of thought. There are people who, according to me, think honesty is the best policy. I will tell you how it is, then you decide what you want to do. So I will show you the mirror. If you ask me in one line what I think of my role as a comms person, I say I'm a mirror. I will show you. You're good, bad, or ugly, I will show it to you. Then you take the decision. That's where it stands.
Absolutely. Well said, ma'am. So we have about 585 people watching this program online. We have a few questions, but I guess we already crossed 7, and we'll just maybe take 1 or 2 short questions. There is one question from Pondicherry. This is a student called Praveen from Pondicherry. He wants to know, ma'am, thank you for the enlightening lecture. I'm a student from Pondicherry University. And you said that you have grown up in Haryana in a small town and studied in Hindi medium, and you rose to become the head of corporate communication of such a big organization. So these days, I think there are some youngsters here as well. So he's saying that these days, a lot of youngsters from smaller towns, tier 2, tier 3 cities, are facing this problem of communication. So how does someone overcome this problem, and how did you work towards that?
Actually, the answer is very simple. You read a lot. You read. If you don't read, you will destroy yourself. The problem is people don't read. They believe, they think, they like books. They'll tell, people will buy books, but they won't read. Open the page, read it. Read synopsis. You can't read full books. I remember I couldn't read classics. My age group people, or my parent used to tell me, if you don't read the classics, I will not buy you fiction. That's what my mother used to tell me. So I read all the classics, Charles Dickens, Black Beauty, you think of it, and I've read all those books. But one is read. And then find what you can't, what you like to read. Like my daughter, elder daughter, hates reading, but she loves anything to do with a murder, whodunits. So she read Sherlock Holmes. So we got her all the books that were to do with crime and, murder and everything. She reads all of those. So we are very happy. Now she reads. So I think it's a question of finding what you love and then start building on that. You must read. And then for communication, watch films. Today, content is phenomenal. Don't watch TikTok. It is not it. Life is not about reels and TikToks. Yeah, watch them. I'm sure they're great, but watch films. There are some phenomenal films where language, diction, enunciation, pronunciation, I don't know whether people understand how important it is. You have to speak. We used to say when my daughter used to write, we used to say one finger space between the words. So you have to put your finger and then write the next word so that you can read what has been written. I don't think people follow those basic skills. So also when you speak, think, stop, pause, put commas in your mind, use commas, semicolons in your head. I speak very fast actually. Before I left, I asked my husband, do you have anything to tell me? Just speak softly, speak slowly. That's all. Let people understand what you're trying to tell them. I said, okay, I'll do that. So, you still learn, right? The best way to learn is to educate yourself. And you can't pass on that job to somebody else. Ki tum padh lo mere behalf pe. You read. No, you have to read. Unfortunate, but true.
Thank you, ma'am. I think Ms. Maithili, would you like to say something?
I just want to add to that I feel one of the basic things to communicating well is to structure your thinking first.
Right.
So very clear sequentially about what you want to say, then you will be able to say it irrespective of language.
Write it down, actually. Always write down your slides. I wrote down my notes. I read them. I took printouts. I know I'm not going for an interview, but I am coming to you with us. And I know Maithili is going to be there. So I'm even more worried. So I have to make sure it's a structured conversation.
Yeah, thank you. So Ms. Maithili, is there anything else you want to say before we conclude?
I had one more question, if that's all the questions we have. What would you say to women who are hesitating to enter automotive? Or it's not even in their choice of careers, even if they're engineers, they would rather go into software or an office.
It's the best place for the woman to be. It's the best place. The automotive industry is dying for women to be there. Don't think about the people who are there. You think about the car, you think about the business, you think about opinions on women need to drive conversations. 15 years ago, I remember a conversation where people said, can you get in and get out of ingress, egress into a car with my sari on? Can I get in and get out? Because the wife in the family is wearing a sari. Is it easy to get into a car? No, those men don't figure it out. They don't figure it out. It's not easy. You can't. You have to wear you first put your butt on the seat and then you slide in like that. No man knows it. And no engineer figures it out. There is no ad about it. There is no communication about it. But that's the truth. The auto industry is dying for women to be in it. And, it's like this. You will always be dealt a hand, right, of cards. Now, you can choose to rise to the occasion. And the best way to do it in the auto industry is the auto industry, according to me. Because one is there are far and few in between. You will stand out whatever you do, and when you speak, everybody will stop to listen. If you speak softly, they will strain to listen. So I have tried both, by the way. I've spoken softly, I've spoken loudly. I have made sure that I enter with a bang. I've done all of that. And I keep trying various things, Does this work for the men I work with? Does this work for the people I work with? I try to think of them as agnostic, but they are not. So I have to work to them. And I think it's a great place for women to be.
Thank you.
Good,
So
thank you.
we have one young lady, a student who wants to ask you a question. So we'll make that as the last one. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good evening, ma'am. It was such a pleasure listening to you. So I have one question. You said when you were in JWT, you had to work from your day roughly starts from 6 a.m. in the morning and you had to work late in the nights and all. And we heard from sir that you have plans for parties, you had time for family, you had time for kids. So how do you do that, ma'am? Like there is a lot of bias out there that women, if you're a woman, you are supposed to work in a typical 9 to 5, and if you're exceeding that, you're not going to have family time, you're not going to have time for your children, and at least when children come, you have to limit your work hours. Like how do you do that, mom?
You're in 2022. You don't have to do anything. If somebody is telling you you have to do something, first you need to tell them to stop telling you anything. And when I say that at 48, when I was 23, nobody could tell me what to do. In fact, if they told me what to do, I'd say, no, I won't do that. I will do something else, even if I wanted to do that, because I was contrary in nature. I talked to you about it, right? So you will not believe what I will tell you now next. And I know it's not a nice question to ask. Men say it, that you shouldn't ask a woman her age, but I'm telling you mine. I'm 49 this December. How old are you?
I'm 20, mom.
You're 20. Okay. So do you eat well? Do you sleep well? Are you strong? Can you run 10 to 15 kilometers? I will ask you, how fit are you? I am fit. I can run 10 kilometers today. I am 49 years old. I cycle 40 kilometers. I get up at 5 a.m. I walk 3 dogs. See, the world is what you make it to be. You're unfortunate, and I'm sorry to be labeling it as your generation. The generation, you eat crap. You then want your bodies to be fine. You get tired before me. I am asked by people, ma'am, how are you still walking in the factory? I said, dost, you have to walk. If you won't walk you think a car is going to pick you up and drop you from from the TCS building to the other building? No. God knows that car will come after 1 hour. Who's going to wait for the damn car? I have work to do. So I walk. I walk. And the plant itself is like 11 kilometers round to round. You have to walk. And for that, you need strength, for which you need mental strength, physical strength, eat well, eat on time. When I partied and when I went out was because I had just got married. Otherwise, my husband would have dumped me, which was okay, which would have been great. And now if I think about it, but that time I wanted it to go on. I couldn't go back home. My 2 sisters weren't married yet. My parents used to think, that's it, end of day's play if this girl comes back. So I used to finish work, go home, take a bath, get ready, wear my skirt, and I used to get out to party. We used to go to Sinduri those days. I don't think you even knew that thing existed. Gatsby or Sinduri, we used to go party, come back 4 a.m., go to sleep for 2 hours, get up, brush my teeth, and I used to drive those days, one Ford Escort. So I'll drive to the plant 1 hour, no driver and all. Who will give you at 23? Nobody will give you a driver. Today I have a driver who has come with me. He drives my car. People ask me, you drive to the plant? I drive once in a while when he says my mother is sick or he is sick or somebody is sick. I say, yeah, I'll drive, no issues. I can drive to the plant and come back. But those days I used to drive every day to MM Nagar, the Ford plant. But that's strength. Eat well. First, what is going inside? Garbage in, garbage out, like that only. It's very simple. I know I talk.
No.
Thank
So
you, mom.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
really.
Yeah.
it
May
was
I
a-
add something to that? Yeah.
Yeah, please.
That, every woman must find her own balance. Each person is different. You have to make your choices. Each person's circumstances are different. And it's okay not to do it all. No, in a 40-year career span, there'll be times when you'll do more of home and there'll be times when you'll do more of work. There'll be times when it'll be a little balanced. There'll be times when it's imbalanced. It's okay. Figure it out as you go along and be comfortable and happy with whatever choices you make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, Maitri from college, JWT. I used to be wearing sneakers, jeans, t-shirt. I used to run at 3:30. They used to have PTAs at 3:30 in the afternoon. Who will let you go when you're a 26-year-old girl? Nobody. Your boss will think you're mad to leave. So 26 years, I used to take an auto. I had a car, but I said, no parking near PSBB in TP Road. I used to take an auto. My was it 29 actually? Sorry, 26 or 29. I used to take an auto, go run, go attend the PTA. The teacher used to be like, how can you be dressed like this? Look at all the other mothers. Look at all the other parents. Avananna put everything they'll wear. Now I can do it. Now I have time. But that time, they'll all have taken their bath in the afternoon, those ladies. and put nice pottu poo, fresh they'll be, and they'll come to pick up their children for their PTA. I'll be looking like one hangdog expression. Come on, finish this shit. Come on, let's finish this and get out. And my daughter will be like, what, ma? Why have you come in jeans again? And I'm like, listen, this is all I can do. So we adjusted with that. This is it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Adjust.
That was really nice. I think straight from the heart. You answered all the questions, straight from the heart. Hope all the questions were answered well. Time for us to thank the guest today and honor her for making it here live at MMA in these days of online sessions. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's thank her with a round of applause. And also we thank all the audience who joined us online today. Thank Ms. Maithili, who's been driving this session month after month. I would, at the risk of being biased, I would say that the Women Business Forum sessions have been one of the best at MMA, and we have had a real good traction, a lot of good feedback about the sessions of Women Business Forum. So we look forward to more in times to come. Thank you, Ms. Maithili, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Reach back home safe until we meet again. Bye.